Girralambone, remote northwest New South Wales.
And we'll talk to him and get a witness statement from him and just find out exactly what he's got to say. So
Stanley Lord is receiving a visit from the Aboriginal Legal Service. He's raising his grandchildren alone after they were removed from his daughter. But it's his adult son, Stanley Jr., who'd always lived with him, being discussed.
But it's better than your normal court case because it's not like we're trying to lock someone up for a crime.
It was the 19th of January there, and we buried him the day before his birthday, 1st of February.
Stanley Jr. died in jail almost 700 kilometres away in Sydney. His dad doesn't know why. He was jailed for driving without a licence.
Yeah, it's all his stuff.
Imprisonment is taking a harsh toll on Australia's First Peoples.
I still got all his stuff in the room what he was going to move into. I don't want to talk about it. A lot of them get sent to jail for no reason. Well, probably reason, but, you know, it's not worth going to jail for. Like my son, he went to jail for driving with no licence. They say they give him 3 years, but they give him more than that. It's life. He's not coming back.
The Aboriginal Legal Service says almost half of its clients convicted of driving while disqualified in the region were jailed, a higher imprisonment rate than aggravated indecent assault or possessing child pornography. It disproportionately affects Indigenous people in remote areas, and the ALS wants to see less of that because Aboriginal people in Australia are locked up at 15 times the rate of everybody else.
I visited him in the hospital before he passed. He kept saying he was sorry. I think he knew what was going to happen.
Stanley Sr. now awaits the results of a coronial inquest. A few hours' drive from Stanley Lord, a stone's throw in outback terms, lives the man who buried Stanley Jr. Walgett is a predominantly Aboriginal town with its fair share of problems, and those fighting for a change.
And by faith we can see
At his Sunday service, Pastor Isaac Gordon's own family make up most of those in attendance, but he's on a mission to connect.
Hallelujah. Good to see you, brother. Couldn't get your mate though, mate. I texted him. Any more favourites? What about without him? I could do nothing, you know what? Without him.
Yeah, I had a few more last week, but football on takes them away.
Oh, footy on tonight.
Football, they get on a few beers and they don't turn up, you know. But one lost sheep, brother, that's all we're looking for. One lost sheep, you know. And that's all that matters, you know. Even on our mission they had gardens, you know. Proper veggie garden. Better services now, doctor services and stuff like that. But the health is not improving. If you're smoking drugs or drinking grog, you're not going to do it, you're not going to make it, you know.
Isaac is also an Aboriginal community worker with the police and a former prison guard, roles which have shaped his outlook. Over the years, he's seen firsthand Indigenous Australia's high levels of substance abuse, domestic violence and suicide, plus a life expectancy well below the national average. His own family has been spared such chaos.
Very grateful, mate, yeah. I think my faith had a lot to do with that, mate. You got to give them that chance, mate.
Tonight, he's preparing healthy food for a camp trip, which is the blueprint for his dream project, a healing centre to help local kids deal with the issues he says are amongst the prime causes of Australia's Aboriginal incarceration crisis.
That's the only way that'll bridge the gap to Indigenous health, is make sure we have decent food, you know. But they don't seem to care about that, mate.
Before the camp, an old friend of Isaac's is dropping in on release from jail. They're discussing the lives of people they know at breaking point.
So they left him to OD and went and come back. 4 o'clock that night, then rang the ambulance. He was already dead.
Isaac and his wife Eileen helped raise Reggie's kids when he and their mother were not around. Now Ike's wondering whether Reggie, who's facing up to his crimes, might be a good person to recruit at his future healing centre.
He's always there to lend a hand. You know, when you was down, he'd be there, you know. Give you a shoulder to cry on. I was about 22, like when I first went to jail now, and I'm 41 now. So, like, and I've virtually done stints nearly every year. Like, probably my best breaks were like 2-3 years. There's a dive out of this tree here.
Reggie's been to jail countless times, including for a serious assault on the mother of his children. But his upbringing too was fraught with a trauma not uncommon amongst Aboriginal families. His grandmother was part of the stolen generation, the forced removal of Aboriginal and mixed-race children from their parents by white authorities. His other disabled grandmother died a tragic death. Over the years, they're events which have taken their toll on the family.
She wheeled herself away from the cottage and doused herself with kerosene and lit herself alight. And that's one thing, I suppose, my old father, you know, he lived with, like, and I suppose it was hard to deal with the grief, you know, like he'd punch my old mum, and times he'd take it out on me and my brothers.
In a week's time, Reggie will be let out altogether, and he's thoughtful about how he's hurt others.
I was one that bottled a lot of stuff up until I exploded. Nearly killed my girlfriend. It shattered me. Yeah. It affected me in a lot of ways. And I could have been looking at a murder charge, you know. Waking up in a cell, not knowing what I'd done. Next morning, you know. My head just started spinning. I didn't know what to think, where to think. My kids were going through my mind. The boys were younger then, my eldest fellow was 17.
Reggie served time in jail with various members of his family, including his own son.
I worry about them a lot because I know that going through all my, you know, depression, all the domestic violence, I've felt worthless. I felt weak, you know, and I was a lost man, sort of, and they seen me as they were growing, you know, that's when I, you know, they seen me the way I was, you know, like committing all me, you know, assaults and me domestic violence and stuff like that, the same way I did.
The best available data shows that over a third of Indigenous prisoners were, like Reggie, sentenced for acts intended to cause injury. But it's the sheer number of Indigenous prisoners which is pressuring policymakers to look past the simple matter of guilt for individual crimes. Aboriginal people make up just 2.5% of Australia's population, but they take up a quarter of the beds in jail. For juveniles, the figure's almost 40%.
We've always been subjected to almost a brutal form of justice, whether it's whitefellas landing and taking over the country, or the treatment of our people as you know, colonisers started to settle different parts of the country, you know, or our mob being rounded up and put on missions around the place. So I don't think you can ever characterise our relationship with the justice system as one of benefit to us.
All the peas you don't use, just put them in the tin, so you don't lose them. Should be rope in there, probably, is it?
They got too much to do today to worry about fishing.
Helped by local teachers and one of his brothers, Ike's camp is underway. Kids here are mixing with police in a positive environment, building bridges to better relationships and a life, Isaac hopes, free of jail. But like many elders, he also wants children to keep a connection with country and culture while getting them out and about and off-grid.
What happens, they go to jail, they come out and go back to the same place they lived, and they go back to the same, you know, the same rot they put them in there. They go to jail, they come out of jail, they do the same thing, they go back to jail, and it's continual.
These kids haven't been in trouble with the law, but this is the first step in Isaac's grand plan with his brothers. He's been trying to make connections to fund a permanent program for local young offenders and other kids, his healing centre.
Sex abuse or drug abuse or alcohol abuse or whatever, mental abuse, if they're grieving, they go to the healing centre and they're here trying to heal them. I've seen the family breakdown. I've seen drugs greater and worse drugs than ever before. I've seen mental illness greater than I've ever seen it before. So they turn to drug, they turn to drink to try and get that peace or healing, but only lasts for a little while. And then they're in the gutter. They got no identity as Aboriginal people. They don't know the language, or they don't know the cultural, even hunting, or just simple thing, you know, they're losing, they lost a lot. And I always said that, you know, we had a stolen generation, but now we've got a lost generation of youth coming through, you know. I reckon the last couple of generations have been lost. Mate, it breaks your heart, you know, to see our young fellas locked up. You know, the jail are full of young youth, Indigenous youth.
The biggest town round these parts is Dubbo. On its public housing fringes, there are countless kids of the sort Isaac is seeking to help.
First one I got looked up for is a snatch and run. Did up in the mall on an old lady. And the second one got caught for breaking into cars. And the fourth one was breaking in us. Fingerprinted. Got an armed robbery charge, but got dropped down to goods in custody. Aggravated breaking in us. And I forgot what the other one was.
Boney, as he's known, is a shining example of how familiar jail has become to some sections of the community.
And you met all my cousins from Bree and all that in there. Met a couple people from Wakenya, Burke, Sydney, Griffith, Wagga, Grafton and all that, Tamworth.
A lot of family.
Yeah.
Magistrates in this part of New South Wales have made headlines for their comparatively tough sentencing of Indigenous youths. One boy received a year in jail for the theft of hamburger buns, reduced on appeal. Boney received a year for twice being stopped with cannabis, a mere $30 worth, also reduced on appeal. Indigenous young people in New South Wales are far more likely to be proceeded against by police, and the courts are far more likely to find them guilty.
Well, you can look at it two ways. One, we're not getting a fair go, or we must be the most criminal people in the world, and I just don't accept we're the most criminal people in the world.
Boney's lawyers at Dubbo's Aboriginal Legal Service concede that many Aboriginal people are jailed because they have committed crimes, but they say the cycle of incarceration can only get worse with such an approach to sentencing.
The rate of imprisonment is so high that we are seeing now the consequences really of the imposition of mass imprisonment on a particular part of the population.
They've quite often got family within the particular facility. They know they're going to get fed 3 times a day. They know they've got a safe bed to put their head down every night. Some of these children, and I was talking to somebody from within the system this morning who was saying, when they go back to jail, am I getting my old room back?
This sentence, this punishment, is losing its effectiveness in terms of being a dreaded option.
In remote communities which have a higher proportion of Indigenous people, there can be a lack of alternatives to jail, like community service. Detention is often the only answer on the judge's plate. Some police say they do their bit with community outreach programs, but the burden is great.
So we're trying to engage these kids in a more positive light. And that's coming from an agency that really, that's not our job. But we're sick of trying to bash our head against the wall and saying, well, we can arrest them, we can have them locked up, we can try and do whatever we can to try and solve that one particular crime. But how are we going to change that whole cycle? And sadly, we're being able to predict that some of the families that we've been dealing with now for generations, we're probably looking at 3, 4 or possibly 5 generations of some families that are producing children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren that ultimately grow up in exactly the same way as their uncles, brothers, cousins, etc. and merge into this life of criminal offending behaviour because that's all they know.
On a personal level, even top police are now questioning the effectiveness of jail.
A deterrent factor, I'm certainly not convinced is a deterrent. What it does do, however, is it stops that child committing crime.
Yarragu then decided that he'd cut all the pieces of the fish up and throw them in what was the river then, the Barwon River, that the cod made. And he gave a name to all those pieces of fish once they were thrown into the river. So all the water creatures got a name. So for example, there was Dungay, which is yellowbelly, Gagay, which is the catfish, Dungle, the mussel.
I hope down the track our young youth will understand who they really are, where they come from, where their land, where their boundaries of their tribe, of their nation, and get to grab hold of that. Say, well, I'm a Nimba person, or I'm a Barkindji person, and be proud of that. If you lose your identity, you lose everything again. If you don't know where you come from, if you don't know who your people are, and if you don't know your culture, well, you lost your way. and you've got no identity. So who are you? Who are you if you've got no identity? You're a nobody.
I reckon we should tell them ghost stories so they'll go to sleep early.
I love my people, you know, I love my youth, the youth. I love trying to help them. And that's a lot to do with my faith, you know, to care for them and to love them and try and find help for them if I can, you know. That's one of the reasons I'm fighting for the healing centre, mate.
Ike and his brothers have the will, but they need the funding if their centre is ever to see the light of day.
See, the place I'm talking about that we own is straight down there. About maybe 20 k's down, I suppose. Might be 20 k's.
Yep.
Down that road. And then we've got the school just up here, about 5 k's. This is a beautiful little place for the youth, you know, but sad to see it closed. And they were doing such a good job.
A Christian boarding college for Aboriginal children has temporarily closed its doors after not meeting some government requirements.
So that looks like a proper footy oval, mate.
Yeah.
It's not quite full length, but it's close.
Close, yeah.
Yeah.
So how's that come up and it's watered? Nice.
Oh, it's nice.
Yeah?
Better than the one in town.
Fair dinkum.
Yeah.
Science lab?
And in the end of the science lab was the library. They've got a heap of books there that they were starting to get sorted out.
Organic eggs, right?
Yes.
Organic eggs, that's it. Yes.
But this is unreal, this place.
The school sits near a large piece of the Gordon family's ancestral land where Ike's brother lives. There's talk of collaboration should it reopen.
See, our idea is to work with you fellas. Because you've got this place up and running.
Yeah.
So what we want to do next door to you is to set up units for the children, and they attend school here.
Yeah.
And we pick them up in the afternoon and take them back over to the what's name.
Yep.
But we're working together. When you have stuff happening, we'll come together and all, you know. That's my idea of what I'm trying to do, yeah.
Yes.
That way we're sort of encouraging one another. We just made them making boomerangs and didgeridoos and clapsticks, woomeras, and have a little shop at the front just selling stuff on the way past. You know?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Treated to a tour of the property, Isaac's dream seems within reach. But his excitement is tempered by the suspected suicide of a boy Isaac was working with just days earlier.
Just the quietness and the soothing feeling you get when you sit beside the water, you know. And sometimes that's all our kids need, just to sit down and think about life, you know, where they're going. They say, Brother Ike, you're strong, but yeah, I'm strong, but not me.
That's right.
It's my faith that makes me strong.
That's right.
And
you're weak.
But I get, you know, it hurts me, and I got to have a time where I just sit down and cry, you know, let it all out. But our youth, you know, I don't know how they're coping with it, mate. You know, no one don't want to get out of bed and go to school.
Yeah.
Well, this is the place we chose for the healing centre to put our buildings, dormitories and stuff for the kids. And you know, it's a place called Compton Downs, but there's a nice little mountain and we're going to try and put the buildings around the foot of the mountain, so the kids got a bit of a, you know, they can see a bit of beauty when they wake up. And Last time I knew we caught a goanna. And Daniels was going to eat it. Or he did eat it, we cooked it somewhere.
As he views the potential healing centre site with his brother and nephew, the recent tragedy is eating away at Isaac.
He come into the police station there, and we just then become mates, you know. And he was a kid, I believe, that would really benefit from the healing centre. But tragically, he took his life in the new year, you know. And when I look back and see that, I could see if only we had something like the healing centre, the school, where this young fella could have went and seek that support and help and guidance and counselling in his life, he might still be with us today, you know. And it really, well, you could see the change in me, brother, when you said me again. My hope was sort of fading, you know, because when you see this happen, it hits you inside. We're not looking for a big heap of money. We just want a few buildings put in place so we can just look after the kids and, you know, support them and help them through, you know.
You can send them here before they go into jail. This is a place where you might be able to change their direction.
The way I think. But what they've done for 200 years doesn't work. Is the answer to build more jails? To build big juvenile justice centres? Or to create places like Compton Downs and the school where our children can come and find healing and hope and just help to face life, you know. And like I said to my brother, if we lived on the North Shores of Sydney, it'd be a different story. But out here in the bush and with the forgotten people, and the government doesn't care, they don't care, you know. They really never have cared, you know. But we care. We live here. We love our people, our children. You say to yourself, well, how many more are we going to lose before we have something in place for this youth? But we're on top of the world here, brother. Beautiful place, brother, eh? Beautiful place.
There's a land that is fairer than day, and by faith we can see it afar.
The cover birds coming good for water.
For the Father wakes over the way to prepare us a dwelling place. All together, nice and loud. In the sweet by and by, we shall meet on that beautiful shore. In the sweet by and by, how we shall meet on that beautiful